Thanks for joining us for episode 105 of the Football Coaching Podcast. Today we're going to be talking... That's too high. Hold on, we're going to redo that. And thanks for joining us for episode 105 of the Football Coaching Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what to do when disaster strikes. What do we do when injuries occur, a player quits, a player has to move, transfer, anything like that where we're losing a player, especially when we're losing a key player. So it's that moment, that sinking feeling during a game when your stud is laying on the ground holding his knee or something, and you just know, man, what? Uh-oh. This is bad. This is bad. How can we... That's going to be bad. There's no way around it. There's no way to say, well, we'll just move on. Everybody likes to say, well, next man up. And that's the title of this episode is Next Man Up. But next man up it's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to say. However, we go next man up. We have to be prepared for it. It can't just be turn around and grab somebody on the bench. In fact, that's one of my most infuriating things that happens at times is when we have an injury and a coach spins around and says, hey, just, give me a tackle. That's fine to scout team. That's scout team stuff. But just give me a tackle on a Friday night. That's not good. So we have to be prepared for our injuries. We have to know what is coming next. And each position coach needs to know exactly what's coming next for them at their particular position. And we have our plan for what to do if something happens. We have to be able to adjust that plan as well as we go forward. Special teams is a big one. Special teams, we'll talk about all these different things today. Special teams, a lot of you guys have 25 guys on a roster or less. And you got a special teams depth chart too deep with every single player on it. Is every single player really somebody you want out there on a crucial kickoff? So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about. How do you prepare for that? What do you do when it happens? How are you going to make sure that your team is ready for disaster, really? A couple of things that are on the website. I wrote a blog article last week. Don't think I talked about it on the podcast. 38 myths that defensive football coaches have not let go of. That's on footballdefense.com. So go over and check that one out. 38 myths. And keep in mind that they are myths. So these are things that I'm saying we should not continue to believe on that article. And see which ones you're still holding on to. And like I said, I've probably done all of them and probably done a lot of them recently. So here we're going to talk about, as always, we have technical difficulties. So we're going to talk about next man up. What do you do when injuries happen or you lose a player? Are you prepared for all the things that can happen? There's multiple ways that you can lose a player. You can lose them through injury. You can lose them because they quit. You can lose them because they have to move. There's just so many different things that can happen where you lose this kid to play for you. Eligibility early in the season, or some of you guys have like 6-week mark, things like that where you'll lose a player. Are you prepared for those events to happen? Not just in a game, but also throughout the course of the season if you lose somebody during the week. So we're going to talk about five things on your checklist that I think you need to go over. And I think you need to go over them each week. 5 things on your checklist for dealing with disaster on your football team. And we've had most, if not all of these. I don't think we've had, in recent years, I don't think that we've had a significant player quit the team, just quit. We haven't had many players quit in recent years, which speaks a lot, I think to the program and the head coach that we have right now. But we have had players kicked off the team for violating team rules. We've had players be lost due to eligibility. We've had parents pull players because their grades or their behavior or this or that. Behavior more, that happens at our lower levels. Parental kids acting up and they'll pull them off of their 8th grade team or something like that. What's our modified team. You lose a player for injury, obviously. That's not uncommon. We just have to be prepared for all these events to happen. So the first thing is an obvious one. Have a depth chart. But let's take it another level. Have a real depth chart. Okay? You got your ones and your twos, and you might have your threes. I have a first group offensive line and a second group offensive line. And when we rep in individuals, I rotate. The first group goes out there and they rep through everything, and the second group goes out there and they rep through all the plays. So in individuals, we'll just rapid fire hit, all of our base plays. We'll hit a zone right, zone left, stretch right, stretch left, power right, power left, counter left. We hit them all, route. Okay, we hit our base plays with those guys. First group goes, second group goes. But in the reality, I don't have 10 guys, and most people don't have 10 guys. In the NFL, a lot of times when the left tackle gets hurt, the right tackle moves over there. And then the backup left tackle might go to right tackle. So that's, what is your real plan? If you run a 4-3 defense, and I'll give you an example. I was not a very good college football player. I just wasn't. Wasn't a very good college linebacker. We go, we go travel squad, and they take it too deep. I was in that too deep a lot of time. I was that guy that was fighting for a travel squad position every week. I was in that too deep, but I can promise you, I was listed as the backup Sam linebacker. I was not the backup Sam linebacker. I was the backup. If you had to list it, there were 3 starters, there were 3 backups, and I was the 3rd backup. Maybe the 4th. I don't know. They may have moved a strong safety up there. I don't know. Put the best 11 on the field. Have a realistic depth chart. Maybe it's not written down, but it depends on how you do things. We have a coach who's responsible for holding on to the depth chart. Okay, and this is something that we have to address in our depth chart because it happened the other night. We had a Mike linebacker get injured. Okay, the guy that was called for was not the next guy. In other words, the next guy, the guy that was going to go in, should have been, I think the Mike got hurt and it should have been the Will going in, something like that. I can't remember the exact scenario. It wasn't this. It was back during the scrimmage, and I don't remember who we had where. But somebody went down. The guy that's supposed to go in is not the backup linebacker. It may have been offensive line. But it's something I realized immediately. We've got to address that because the depth chart that coach has in his hands, a lot of times this is a JV coach who's not there, doesn't know all the rotations and the way that things happen. And he's just looking at the depth chart doing his job. Tommy goes down, Billy's back up. Billy. You're going, oh, God, not Billy. Oh, no. No, that's the 22nd kid. There's a difference. We need the 12th kid. So you got to have a realistic depth chart. If you have 3 linebackers, you probably don't have 3 true backups. You don't have 6. In other words, do you have 6 linebackers that you really want to see on the field on a crucial down? I don't. Not in a 4-3. It's not that I don't love the kids. It's not that I don't think they're great. I can deal with the reality because I was the 6th guy that nobody wanted to see on the field on a crucial down. You have 3 starters, a 4th linebacker, a 5th linebacker, and a 6th linebacker. So my backup Sam on the depth chart, the one that reps when we call 2s on defense, he might be our backup Mike. And so you need to have a realistic. So first thing you need to do, have a real depth chart. And don't just. Excel is such an easy software program. You don't have to go out and download a depth chart and fill it in. And I know not everybody's good with technology. Use Excel. If you don't have Excel, use Google Docs, use Google Drive, Google Sheets, I think it's called, and make a depth chart that fits what you need. Make a depth chart that has, we'll stick with a 4-3, that has a Sam, a Mike, and a Will, and then has 3 slots below it. So it's got starting Sam, starting Mike, starting Will. And then below it, either, depending on what you have, you might have, all right, the Sam is listed as the backup Mike. And the backup Sam is this or that, or you may just list them in order and say, the Sam is the backup Mike, and then this is the next guy, and next guy, and next guy. Don't worry about the fact that your depth chart doesn't look like it's supposed to look. Make a depth chart that's real, that's legitimate. Have in your mind, this is an issue that came up for us Friday night. I'll tell you this one. We were rotating 3 defensive lines. We have 3 defensive lines that can legitimately play. We have a lot of kids. We have 175 kids left in our program now, I think 172, something like that. We started with 191. We had 20-something come out, not get things done like get a physical, that were cut before they ever even issued equipment. So 200-something kids came out for our program this year. We have a lot of kids. We had 60 that dressed for varsity. We have 3 lines, groups of 4 of defensive linemen that can all play during the game. Group 3 is better than Group 1 when Group 1 is exhausted. But in crunch time, we were up 2 scores. I want the pass rush line. And this is stuff, you know, we don't always have 3 groups of defensive linemen, so it was like, oh boy. You know, I want the 4 kids who can rush the passer the best. And we didn't have that prepared. So that's things you want to consider as situational depth as well. Situational depth is also important. I've got safeties that defend the run and safeties that defend the pass better. We got to know who's who. Second thing, once you've got that true and legitimate depth chart drawn up, who goes where, situation, it may be, you may not be able to fit it all on one sheet. It may be kind of a convoluted mess. Be honest and upfront with your kids. Like I said, we have 5 offensive linemen. I don't know, maybe they figure it out over time, but in practice, it's pretty, I think we make it pretty obvious that the 10th guy isn't coming up. And I let them know, this guy's the backup center, this guy's the backup guard, left and right, this guy's the backup tackle. Sometimes that's the same guy. Last season, that was the same guy across the board. Now, unfortunately for him, that meant that he stayed the backup. Because a lot of times there's somebody who could learn a position better but couldn't learn all 5. I try to have that kid who can play at least 4. I may have a backup center and then the backup left guard, left tackle, right guard, right tackle. Same kid. So the backup center on the depth chart, and then the next one will have the same kid in 4 spots. Or I may say, look, if the guard gets hurt, if the center gets hurt, it could be a situation where the center gets hurt and the backup center is actually the guard. And so the guard will move over, and then I need my backup guard. And that way I only have 1 backup going into a game. Now, obviously, I have the 6th man, the 7th man, the 8th man. I had the backup to the backup center. There might be a JV kid. But be honest with your kids and be upfront. We have 5 offensive linemen, but we're not. When the right guard gets hurt, the 2 right guard may not be the kid going in. When the left tackle gets hurt, the 2 left tackle may not be the kid going in. Maybe the kid who normally works is the 2 center. But what I do in practice is I just rotate. I don't go on offense. I never go 2s for offensive line because that unit doesn't work that way. Dog's rattling his cage. So you be honest and upfront with your guys too, because let me tell you, here's the thing: there's nothing more devastating to a kid, and we've made this mistake. There's nothing worse to a kid than to work all week thinking he's the number 2 X, and the X gets hurt, and this backup Z goes in, and he's missed his chance. The receivers obviously rotate some, and he's thinking, I don't understand. I don't understand what happened. I want our offensive linemen to know we have 5 starters. We have a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and a 10. 11, 12, 13, 14. If something happens and the right guard is not performing, the backup right guard doesn't get that position. Let's say that he gets sick. Let's say that he has an injury during the week. Let's say on Monday he goes out and sprains his ankle, and on Friday he can't play. from Monday when that ankle is sprained to Friday at kickoff, the rest of the offensive linemen are in competition to be number 5. It doesn't become the right guard's job. That's not the way we work things. And we be up front with your kid. The important thing here, have a depth chart, a real depth chart that you're actually going to use, but then be honest and up front with your kids, because otherwise they're going to go out there thinking, hey, if Tommy gets hurt, I'm in. Well, this is me. You'll see the kid, he straps it up because he knows the backup. And you're calling for somebody else. Of course, we like those kids to be ready to go. That kid needs to be ready to go. But the fact is, he may not be the kid that goes. For special teams, you need to assign a coach to handle special teams backups. One coach needs to be in charge of all special teams backups. He needs to be one of the guys that gets reported to when there's an injury. If they're able to, kids need to go to that coach and let him know that they're hurt. There is nothing more embarrassing than going out on the field with 10 men. It happens to us. It happens to every team. It's a consequence of coaching 15, 16, 17-year-olds or younger. But you need to have a coach who is prepared to handle it to minimize those situations. Because there will be a time when a kid doesn't tell you. It's just probably going to happen. We try to be on top of it as much as possible. So have a coach with a special teams depth chart in his hand. And when somebody gets hurt, they are immediately going and alerting their backups. We also tell the kid that he needs to get his backups. If he's got a sprained wrist, something like that, he needs to go and tell his backups. If for some reason he can't go back out there. If he's not able to do that, then the coach needs to do that. But we need to make sure that we alert all the backups on all the special teams where they're supposed to be. Same thing on your special teams depth chart. Do you have 11 kids that you want to be the backup kickoff team guy on a crucial kick, on onside? Or do you have 1 or 2? We might have a backup for the right side and a backup for the left side. Or we might have backup contain guys on the outside. We might have backup gunner guys on the inside, whatever the case may be. Or we may just have 1 through 11, and then we've got 12 through 13 back, 12 through 22 backing up. We get to 22. Yeesh. You usually don't have 22 kids that you want on your kickoff team. Especially, we're trying to keep our starters off kickoff team. At least our two-way starters. We're trying to keep a lot of our defensive starters off of it. Definitely want to keep our offensive. We don't have offensive linemen on there. So, you're already down to just the skill kids. Find 22 of those. Our 22 aren't bad. But I don't want 22. I don't want number 22 out there in a crucial situation when number 12 standing with his hat on his hand. Doesn't make any sense. So have a coach assigned to handle special teams backups and make sure he knows the deal. Also make note, for example, on our punt block. On our punt block, the guy that's going to get the block, he needs to be one of your faster kids. Okay, I've got a really fast kid that just plays receiver. He's going in for the block. But if something happens to him, the next fastest kid is a corner. Well, on our punt block team, that corner just stays on the field and he's blocking the gunner. But now if he has to go in to block the kick, I need to make sure that I have a corner to go get him. We have to have all that prepared. We have to be alert for all of that. We have to know all that. And we have to work it in practice. So have a depth chart, a realistic depth chart. Be honest and upfront with your team's backup and give backups and give him that realistic depth chart too. Fourth thing, write down every single situation that you can think of, next man up situations. Everything you can think of for next man up situations. And on Thursday at practice, for those of you that play on Friday, play on Saturday, then it'll be Friday at practice. On Thursday at practice, work through as many of those scenarios as you possibly can. As many scenarios as you can. Work through them. Jimmy's got turf toe. Who's his backup? Have the coaches there if you can. I know a lot of guys play JV, so you got a JV coach that's on the sidelines. Have somebody else doing his job. JV coach is down coaching JV. Have somebody else doing his job on Thursday. Walk through his perfect practice. Make sure these guys know who their backups are. If you know they're going to be out there, have them alert for it. If he needs to know that he's the backup for R1 through R5, Call out R3s down and get them out there. Hold guys accountable to know. Make sure that teach them, train them. Thursday practice can't be a circus atmosphere. Everybody has to be paying attention on the sidelines. Everybody has to be focused. Some of you guys throwing balls and all this stuff, because that's when we need a sub, and this guy's over here. He's looking up into the stands. He's talking to his dad because his dad's coaching him up, telling him what a jerk the coach is for not playing and why aren't you out there starting. He's telling him what his linebacker read should be. We're going to talk linebacker reads here in a minute on a listener question. They got to be focused, and so you got to start working that focus during practice. And go through all these scenarios. Go through the scenario of, hey, on 3rd and long, we usually bring this guy out for, we replace an outside linebacker with a safety. We don't call them that. We tell them they're all safeties, but some of them are outside linebackers and some of them are safeties. So it's 3rd and long, we pull the outside linebacker off the field, put the safety on the field. If the safety is out, do we leave the outside linebacker out there on 3rd and long, or do we bring another guy out there? We have a next safety. What's the scenario? Be prepared for it. Some of this is going to have to be in your mind. You can have a lot of it in a sheet, but your position coaches should have all of this in your mind. Your position coaches, we're talking about putting all this on a sheet. Your position coaches should know all of this. They should know who goes next. They should be prepared to adjust. Working with linebackers, working with our linebackers, I know who 1 and 2 are. I know who I want out there if they're passing. I know who I want out there if either the Mike or the Will gets injured. It's probably not both. It's probably the next. I know who I want out there in a situation where a corner gets hurt. It may be a safety that goes to corner. Maybe a corner that goes to safety. I have a lot of these scenarios in my mind, and I'm prepared for them. And you need to be prepared for them. I mean, you just have to be. Your position coaches have to be. You have to be. I'm probably the only person. I try to make this clear with the guy who has the depth chart. The offensive line depth chart that you have in your hands is specifically for the situation in which I have been shot and am unavailable to substitute. Otherwise, I know the substitution rotation. But we have a backup plan for in case I am shot and I am not able to rotate the offensive line. Not rotate, we don't rotate offensive line, to sub. But you can grab the kid, left tackle comes off the field, you can grab the kid that's on the sheet as a left tackle. But if I'm screaming for somebody else, that's the kid that's going out there. Whether you know it or not, even if it's not on the sheet. It may just be situational. And maybe the other kid was out there earlier and he looked like crap. And maybe they were already on the backup. And now the backup is out. And you don't have a third guy on your sheet. But I know who he is. Because I know who number 7 and number 8 are. But you have these contingency plans in place. But a lot of it is in your mind. Now, here's the last thing. So the 5th tip. The first one was to have a depth chart. Be honest and upfront with your kids was number 2. Assign a coach to handle special teams backups. Write down every possible situation you can think of and work it in Thursday practice. 5th thing, be honest in your evaluation of your players every weekend. Every Sunday meeting, we sit down and go through every single player on the roster in our Sunday meetings. A lot of it's quick. A lot of it's real quick. We go through, we get to some stud. We got a stud defensive end. Read his name off. Billy. He's fine. All right, move on. And your kid's a stud. He's a hard worker. We ain't got to worry about him. There's nothing really to talk about. A lot of these are quick. We go over the 19th offensive lineman. I can spend a ton of time. Is he still happy being with the program? Is he causing a problem? No? Great. Move on. Okay? But a lot of these kids, we need to have an honest evaluation of where we see them at. We need to go through we go through 60 players on our 61 players on our roster. We go through 61 players. We get to the kicker, most people don't have a whole lot to say. We just kind of move on. We go to guys that have lost positions. You know, this guy was a 1 last week. He was a 2 this week. We need to talk about how his attitude was as a 2. How does he feel about it? What did we see out of him? Is he fighting to get that job back? Is he tucking tail? Is he becoming a cancer in the locker room? As a coaching staff, we need to talk about all of these things. And this is how it deals with Next Man Up. Those are the kids that will quit on you. They may not quit on you on Wednesday. They may not quit on you. They may not come into the office and say, Coach, here's my pads. It's just not for me. You guys are jerks. Whatever. They may quit on you on Friday. You guys all know what that means. They may be on the field, physically, going through the motions. They've already quit on you. Sometimes that happens when you have a bad season. Guys just quit on you. Every Sunday in our meetings, we're evaluating 61 players. Our kids don't even realize this. Some of them think we forget about them or think we, you know how kids are. Kids are not how kids are, how people are. People are always making excuses, blaming somebody else. I'm not starting because the coaches don't like me. They don't talk about Coach such and such doesn't like me. Coach such and such, they ignore me. We talk about all 61 kids. The whole room is there. We discuss them. Sometimes that kid may be a backup, and we spend 45 minutes talking about it. Is he ever going to know that? He should. When you sit down and you have this talk, you're talking about the kids whose attitudes are changing, better or worse, whose attitudes are changing, who's moving up and down, because that way we can identify the kids that are a potential next man up situation. We can identify the kid who might quit on us on the field. Sunday meeting this week, we identified a kid who might quit on us on the field. He might already be quit on us. We identified him. We talked about the situations for replacing him. We talked about the situations for bringing him with us. And then we talked to him. And I say one, there's multiple. Every week there's multiple. Because kids are kids. We talk about what things are going to happen in their life, and you're going to think, you know what? This kid's just decided he hates football. He hates me as a coach. He hates football. He's over it. He doesn't care about this team anymore. You sit down and talk to him. His girlfriend broke up with him. His dad moved out. His parents had a fight. His brother just went off. For us, we're a military community. Could be brother, could be dad, could be mom. Was just deployed. So it's that Sunday meeting where we sit down and talk about every single player that we can start to prepare for what might happen and either cut it off, which is what we try to do by bringing them in and talking to them about it, letting them know, hey, listen, as a staff, not as a coach, not as your position coach, not as your head coach, not as your coordinator, as a staff, all of us, 10, 11 guys, talked, and we see some changes in you. You may only have 2 guys to see it. But we've seen this, and we're concerned about it. Did you realize that this was happening? Most of the time, a kid will say, no, I didn't realize it. Or they'll say, actually, a lot of times they'll say yes, and then they'll tell you why. And you can start to prepare. If the reason why is something that you can help, either help them through or you can help solve. We've had kids who dad lived an hour away and they haven't seen dad in a long time, and it was as simple as, hey, listen, on Saturday after the game, somebody's going to come, one of the coaches is going to come pick you up, and we'll go see dad. We'll set up a time, or let's say he works odd hours, we'll set up a time, get with him. What's the time we can get you up there and go see him? If we got to do that every weekend to keep you involved, keep you from falling apart, we'll do it. But that's better than ignoring it. All of a sudden he hadn't seen dad in a while. All of a sudden he decides on Wednesday, you know what, screw it. I'm going to see dad. He gets in his car. He skips practice. You got to boot him off the team because he didn't tell anybody, or suspend him, or whatever your policy is. Now you're dealing with next man up, and you didn't have to. So 5 steps Have a depth chart. Be honest and upfront with your kids. A real depth chart, by the way. Be honest and upfront with your kids about what's really on that depth chart. Assign a coach to handle special teams backups. So when those happen, you don't go out with 10 guys on your punt team. Write down every single possible situation that you can think of. And I'll go back to the special teams. Make sure your kids know who the backups are, who their backup is, who the backup to the right, and who the backup to the left is. So if they run out there, because they probably know that one kid is hurt, and they can call for the one who's supposed to be backing him up. A lot of times they'll know that, and you can solve the problem even if the coaches don't always get it. We won't be 100% on it. Special teams backups, every single situation you can think of, work it on Thursday practice of injuries. It doesn't mean you have to injure every single kid in practice. You don't sit there and go, Eddie's hurt, Billy's hurt, Tommy's hurt. But hit a few of them. Make sure everybody knows. Always look for that. You know that one kid who's a space cadet and is never ready to go out there when it's his time to go out there. Hit him every Thursday on every special team. Make him be alert. I want our second long snapper to go out there and snap sometimes. I want our second center to get run out there. Those are the ones that can go wrong. Doesn't always work for us. Our second long snapper is the JV long snapper, so he's not always there. Our third long snapper last year, third long snapper, is the punter this year. So I don't know. I don't know who else can snap right now. We have a really good long snapper. We have a pretty good one on JV who's coming along. But I work with long snappers, which I enjoy doing. And be honest. Do an honest evaluation of your players every week. Don't assume that they're the same, that they don't change. Evaluate where they're at as a player and as a person, where they're at in terms of their commitment to the program. Evaluate that every single week so that you can be prepared and you can prevent disasters. You can prevent next man up situations. All right, going on to question and answer. This is a long question. That's why I'm only doing one today. Long question, only doing one. I'll just say, guys, as much as possible, keep the questions short. But I'm going to go through this one. It's worth talking about, I guess. Question comes from Mark about linebacker reads. Says, after a college playing career and 1 year of coaching high school football, life got in the way and I went about building a business career. The pull toward football never left, though, and 25 years later, I'm able to arrange my professional life coaching. Helped out last year. I'm going to kind of skim here. DC moved to a 4.25. Purchased the Coaching Football's 4.25 Defense ebook. 425defense.com, by the way, if you're interested in that ebook. In the early spring, it's been a great resource. Had the linebacker manual as well, which seems more geared towards 4.3. It probably is. I use it in 4.3. I actually wrote that linebacker manual in 4.25. So it's a collection of articles, really. We're 2 weeks into the year, and I'm having a great time immersing myself back in it. How do you approach deciding? So we're talking linebackers. I'm just kind of skimming here. How do you approach deciding which back to keep? We face a fair amount of spread. Cross-keying the quarterback and the back has worked very well. I am also ambitiously maybe attempting to get my backers to also key the guards. As you and others mentioned in your ebook, with more reps, they start to pick that up. My question is, what do you teach as a specific key in pistol, wing tee, split back, etc.? Currently, I'm defaulting to both backers keying the back behind the quarterback in pistol, the same as if the quarterback is under center. In wing tee, the fullback, I have them both keying the fullback. In split backs, I'm instructing them to take the nearest, although I'm tempted to cross key. I'm sure there are other permutations, and I know that some things this will change week to week depending on the scouting. The upcoming opponent, that's a big component of it. Just wanted to get a sanity check from you on the key rules you use in different sets and also a sense of where we can potentially get burned. Another quick question. I'm urging my kids to play aggressively and downhill, but sometimes they're a bit too aggressive, if there's such a thing in football, and at times they can get caught up inside and become easy targets for tackling or tight end sealing. I don't know if I don't want to lose the aggressiveness by instructing them to be too cautious, but wonder how you address this as my head coach is voicing concerns, even though he loves how they're playing downhill. Many thanks, Mark. Yeah, let's start with we're working in a 4-2-5 defense, but the concepts are essentially the same in all of this. 4-3, 4-2-5, 3-4, 3-3-5. I'm going to key the near back as the primary key most of the time. So that's going to be the back nearest to them. Okay, so the back nearest to them is the guy that they are keying. That means that if we're in an I formation, we're keying the fullback. In a 4-3, I have the Mike key the fullback. I have the two back guys key the backfield. In a 4-2-5, we're keying fullback, but we're also keying backfield flow. I tell them you're getting your first couple steps off of your guard or your fullback. So I'm just pulling up. As always, we are on also recording for YouTube. As always now, I guess. Also recording this for YouTube. Also recording it live. So for the live studio audience and for the YouTube viewers, when we're talking about keying near back as our primary key, we're going to be looking at the fullback in a 4-2 in an I formation. He's our primary key. Our secondary key is the guard, and I absolutely agree 100%, Mark. I will teach guard reads as well as teach backfield reads. We work in, out drill. We work guard keys. I made a massive, and I'll go through this. I made a huge mistake. Last week in game plan preparation. I watched film of this team line up in spread. They line up in 10 personnel, two wide receivers each side, or trips to one side, one back in the backfield. They were lining up in empty. They were doing all this stuff. And for 2 scrimmages, the guards never pulled. And so what did I do? I spent an entire week not working guard reads. This is week 1 of the season against a team that knows us very well. Week 1 of the season, they come out pulling guards, running GT counters, running reads. I also told them the quarterback wasn't reading it. Quarterback started reading it off the zone. Didn't prepare him. I did prepare him for the zone read, but not with a GT pull off of it. I just don't even know. They did this thing where it was just the perfect play. So this is kind of going back to the question of what could I see? This is what hit us, and it was just while I'm thinking about it. They lined up 10 personnel back in the backfield. The back is offset. We were calling our strength opposite the running back because he was running across, running downhill every time. He runs his own path. The front side opposite the back, down block, down block, down block. The backside guard pulls and kicks. The backside tackle pulls and wraps. Our will linebacker sees the guard pull inside, which is his. That's his one rule. Guard pulls inside. You right now fill opposite A gap. He steps to fill opposite A gap. Quarterback reads our defensive end, who chases the pulling tackle. Quarterback pulls and runs. Strong safeties and man coverage out on an H-back. Free safety. Our free safety was not doing a good job coming downhill, which we've addressed. But even still, it was a C-gap run with. It was one of those things. So you want to talk about problems you run into? It was one of those things where we look at all of our kids and go, well, without seeing that on film. Now we're prepared for it now. Again, we got a preparation for it now, but without seeing it on film, we just went, oof, man, good one, huh? Got us. So let's go through reads. First of all, our primary key is the back. Our secondary key is the guard. If we're in an I formation, the primary key is the fullback, but really against an I formation, we're going to key backfield flow. We play an I formation team, we're going to key through the guard to the back, and we're going to work that. And I'm going to set them up. I'm going to set them up during the week, keying whatever it is that they do best. What are their best plays? So I'm going to line up an I formation. I'm going to line up 2 guards. I'm going to have cones for tackles, cones for centers. And we're just going to start keying it. And we're going to say, all right, they run ISO. This is what ISO looks like. We got a down block. We got a fullback fill. We got the back coming behind him. Here's your fit. You're going to fit inside. You're going to block destruct. When you get the down block, you're going to come right off the guard's butt. The ball always goes off the guard's butt. You're going to block destruct the inside half of the fullback. The Mike's going to scrape, make the tackle. We're going to work that because they're an ISO team. We get toss. That guard reaches outside. Fast flow in the backfield. You're getting tight to color off the hip of the defensive end. We're going to work that because this is a 2-back team. And in coaching football's 4-2-5 defense, and especially in defending the Pro-I offense with the 4-2-5 defense ebook, that's at 425defense.com/Pro-I, P-R-O-I. I go through all that stuff. I go through how what we key on that, how we key it, how we fit it, draw up every single run fit there that they run. And we're going to go through that based on film. We're going to pick 3, 4, 5 plays. Now, I hate defending the team that we're defending this week because they run a bunch of stuff, and I don't know that they've found their identity yet. So it's very difficult to prepare for them. So I'm going to prepare for the stuff that I think will hurt us the most and the stuff that hurt us last week. We go 1-back, 10 personnel. Who do I want to key in 10 personnel? In 10 personnel, I want to key the running back. Like you said, any one back, I want to key the running back. Talked about split keying with the quarterback. That's not how we do it because the quarterback is the mesh point. So when the back comes into the mesh point with the quarterback, our eyes follow that back into it. Here's why. If I cross key, let's say that I set my strength opposite. I've got a normal shotgun. I've got the back offset to the right of the quarterback, so he's to the defense's left. We make a Ricky call. We got a strong call to the right. My Mike linebacker is keying the R back. My will linebacker, if I cross key it, my will linebacker is keying the quarterback. Here's what happens. Not speed option. Quick pitch, let's say. Let's say a little quick pitch play. The R flies out, and there's different scenarios, especially like a jet sweep that'll happen here. The R flies out immediately. The will backer doesn't get as much of a step as he could on that outside run play. Why? Because he's keying the quarterback, who's just kind of standing there. Or for us, he's that R back flies out and he's on a flare path, and now he's out leveraged the will. Quarterback could be a quick pitch. Quarterback's just going to pitch it to him, and that will linebacker is late to it because he's not keying that R. We'll all key the R. Anything that we need to cross key, and R is what we call our running back. You can call him the A or whatever, the running back. When we cross key, when the R steps into the mesh with the quarterback, our eyes all go to the mesh. So we all end up keying the mesh. And we're looking for who comes out to our side. Most of the time, the back will come out across the quarterback's body, so he'll be coming out, again, we call strength opposite the R, so he's coming out to the Mike linebacker. The quarterback, if he's reading, will pull, if he decides to pull, and he'll come out towards the will. Our defensive end bends down the line of scrimmage for the dive, which is the R. Our will backer comes out and handles the quarterback. Our will backer's a better athlete. That's why we want him doing that. So that's how we're going to handle that situation. I don't think I had the screen share turned on, so hopefully I do now. All right. Well, we didn't get all that drawn up. So that's how we're going to defend 1-back. If we go split back gun, I'm going to key. That's the time that this is the only time. Let me just say, this is the only time that I do cross key. And I probably don't have to. I could probably still key near back. Some of our kids like it to cross key it. I will have them cross key this though at times. Depends on what the team that we're playing is doing. But this is a time that it is legitimate for Mike to cross key to the R, Will to cross key to the H, because those are guys going to come to him. At the same time, mostly what you're going to get out of this formation is like a zone read option, or you'll get some lead stuff. So most of the time, it's still better to key the near back, the back on their side. Same reason. Everybody's going to be coming across the mesh point. Everybody will come across the mesh point. So even though I'm keying near back, the R is going to come across, and the H is going to go behind in a pitch path for zone read option. And so the Mike is still going to see the H go behind, and that's going to take his eyes to the play. If it's a jet sweep, or if it's an outside zone stretch play, the H is going to be leading for it. And I say the H. One of the backs, the back on the same side, is going to be leading for the back coming across the body of the quarterback. And so it'll get us a better read to get where we need to go. So I don't have to cross key and split back gun, but that's probably the only time that I will normally cross key and split back gun. In pistol, like you said, I'm going to read it just like pistol is just one back. Don't get caught up in pistol. Don't get caught up in pistol and gun. If it's got one back, key the one back. He's the guy's going to get the ball. I've changed that before. I've said, look, screw the back. He ain't going to beat us. Key the quarterback. I've done that when the quarterback was the best kid in the region. Run as a runner. They just had to put a running back there because, it's rules of football. They had to have 11 out there. If I'm running against, so one back is one back. Pistol with an offset back is pistol with an offset back. And I'll just show it because it'll cut down on some time. And split back under center. So like split back veer type stuff, key near back. Key near back on that. If I get quarterback and pistol, I don't mean to sound insulting when I say it. It's not hard for me. Key the near back. Just follow this simple rule. Key the near back. Now, do I key through the guard? Absolutely. I look at guards for pulls and pass sets. I key through the guard. But if I have an offset back on the side of the mic, I'm going to key him. Why? Because he can ISO. We saw a formation where the H-back, who was in a wing or in a slot most of the time, came in and lined up directly behind the tackle. Why was he there? So they could run a wing lead. So they can run an ISO. So who do we key? The guy's going to ISO me. If he goes flying outside, it's stretch. We key the near back. If I get wing T, the back becomes my secondary key. This is by game plan. But if they're a wing T football team, then the back, the fullback, is as difficult to read as anything, because he can tell us where we need to be most of the time, but he can give us some really false reads. He can give us some really false reads. It depends on what you're keying. Now, some teams will line up looking like a wing T, but the reality is they're not. You get the red and blue formations, and they may not be a wing T. They may not really be a wing T. But if I've got a wing T, I'm going to key the guards. Because in a true wing T, the guards will take me to the play most of the time. Very simple. Very simple. Take 2 steps off the guards. If it's a pull, trust it, and then pick up the back. So if I get a pull inside, I'm immediately filling front side A gap. Immediate. And I'm picking up the back as I go. If I get a pull outside, my Mike linebacker is taking 2 steps to fill off the defensive end's hip as he picks up the back. Now at the back is giving him some sort of false key or something, then he can come back to it. But I got to trust these guards in a wing T. I got to trust these guards in a wing T. I know coaches, wing T coaches always talk about, yeah, if they're keying the guards, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. Let me tell you what the basis of the wing T offense is. Pull guards and run behind them. So if you're doing other stuff, yes, it's good stuff. Yes, it works sometimes. No, I don't think it's what you want to do. And I want to make you play left-handed. That's it. Double wing. They pull guards to the play. Make them play left-handed. Make them run behind some. Everybody says, what about the influence trap? What if they influence trap you? influence trap you for 400 yards? Doubt it. But they'll misdirect you in the backfield while you're worried about not chasing the wrong guard. They'll run for 400 yards on you. Key the guards. Trust what you see on film. The best compliment you can get is that somebody got you because your kids are too disciplined. Your kids are so disciplined, so well coached, so well taught that we had to draw up these influence pulls to get you going the wrong direction. That's a compliment to me. That's a compliment to me, and I'll deal with it when it comes. I think I hit most of the offensive structures here. Let me just make sure. Pistol, wing T, split back. Pistol's not a backfield. I'll say it again. Split back gun is different from split back under center. Oh, in regards to them playing two downhill, it's on you to teach your kids when not to be downhill. Because as a linebacker, if somebody comes downhill, now if they're just blitzing every time, that's a problem. And I see that. We get on guys, you gotta be downhill, So he's just like, screw it, I'm gonna be downhill. He's gonna blitz every single down. A gap, B gap. That's a problem. If that's what they're doing, they're not playing downhill, they're just blitzing. Okay? What you want to see is them reading and getting downhill quickly. Here's what'll happen. This is what we got on Friday night. Okay? We got jet sweep. And the coach said, as critical as I am of our guys, talking to their coach, he said that our linebackers were doing a good job coming downhill in the scrimmage, and the only way for them to run between the tackles was to get their eyes outside. So in the first half, they ran jet sweep outside and attacked us outside. Now, initially, the jet sweep was working really well because our backers were doing a great job of remembering that they do not have responsibility on the jet sweep, that they are responsible for what's happening in the box. And so we were getting like a zone read action behind the jet sweep. Our Mike linebackers key in the R. Our Will linebackers holding for the quarterback on the zone read action. We're doing pretty good, except that we're not getting the safety downhill. Our end's getting caught up inside, and the jet sweep's working. So what happens to that? The Mike or the Will starts to feel like he has to do a little more, and when he sees the jet sweep action, his eyes pick up off the backfield. He runs to the jet sweep action. We stop the jet sweep a couple times, and bam, we're getting hit between the tackles all of a sudden. Where we should not get hit. Where we should not be giving up yards. Except for we don't have linebackers because they're looking outside. Hey, we'll spend a lot of time working that because if teams get you with it, they're going to try to get you again. We're working everybody on it. You know, we're working umbrella drill this week. We're working with basically playing in and out on the inside with our Mike and Will reading quarterback and R with the jet running across them. We're telling everybody not to worry about where the ball is. We don't have a ball in there. And we're having the strong safety come down and force and the free safety come down and play the alley. And the Mike linebacker and the Will linebacker are inside playing in and out with the quarterback. We may bring the defensive end in at some point later this week too, today or tomorrow. Bring him in. So, you know, that you asked what are some things that I can run into. And that's one. And that was when they weren't pulling a guard. And I showed you another one, talked you through another one that causes problems, which was that they pulled a guard and read behind him. You know, that was another problem that we had this week. It's just, they did a good job with us. Nothing. I didn't know what to say other than crap. They down blocked on the front side, pulled and kicked with the guard that pulled our Will linebacker. They pulled and wrapped with the tackle that made our end bend down the line of scrimmage. Quarterback read it, and when the Will linebacker in the end went with it, he pulled and replaced. He got good yards on it. They they go to clinics too. They practice like we tell our kids. They practice too. Kids want to know why this isn't working. Why is that? Why is that? Why? Well, they practice too. You know, that's part of the game. All right, that's going to be it for episode 105 of the Football Coaching Podcast. You can find not only the, if you want to see the diagrams, you can go to footballcoachingpodcast.com/105 here probably later today or tomorrow and see those diagrams drawn up for you. You'll also find the episodes there. If you want to find back issues, I have guys asking, I know iTunes only shows the last 20. I don't know why. I don't know what the issue is with that. iTunes only shows the last 20. I've tried to adjust the RSS feed. It hasn't worked. But, here's the thing. If you want to get every single episode of the Football Coaching Podcast, go to footballcoachingpodcast.com, and I'll show it here on the screen. Go to footballcoachingpodcast.com. Go to the archives if you want to see them in date order. There's a button for archives up at the top. And you'll see the archives scroll down all the way back through episode 1, way back in January 2012 with Nate Allball and I. I think Nate was on up through, off and on, I think Nate was on up through about, let's see, he was on Tim Murphy episode 21. He did that with us. And then I think we did a couple more. I think we did a couple here and there. But up to about 20 is Nate and I. And then we do interviews. If you want to listen to somebody other than me talk about football, I did interviews for the most part up through episode 60, I believe. Yeah, episode 60. Coach Grabowski was the last interview I did on Pro Style Pistol, episode 60. And then I think in episode 61 was the announcement that I would be changing the format, forsaking all other coaches, and just sitting here and talking. And since then, that is what we have done. And I have enjoyed it. And the podcast has done well. So apparently, you guys like me. You don't want to admit it. Some of you do. Some of you do send emails, and I greatly appreciate it. But you guys that want to admit it on iTunes. Go to iTunes, and in iTunes, leave a 5-star review. If you can leave some nice words there, it is kindly appreciated. I won't read any iTunes reviews today because we're out of time. But thank you so much for listening to the Football Coaching Podcast. Have a great week. Good luck, coaches that are in season. Good luck this week. If you have questions, send them into the Football Coaching Podcast. We'll read them when we can. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm out. Struggle ending that thing today.